opening issue of this week's Parsha, as Yafi will tell you, is, I know, is Yaakov and the brachot. Yaakov receiving the brachot, right? Yaakov and Rivka's maneuvering in order that Yaakov would receive the brachot that Yitzchak clearly wanted to give to Esav. Okay, that is clear. Okay, let's just begin and then we'll move around. We'll move around a little bit. Okay, for us in Hebrew, let's start off on page. Good morning, David. Page 124. Okay, ve'ele Toldot Yitzchak ben Avraham. So, and how that first in Hebrew?
ואלה תולדות יצחק בן אברהם. אברהם הוליד את יצחק, ויהי יצחק בן 40 שנה, לקחתו את רבקה בת בתואל הארמי מפדן ארם, אחות לבן הארמי לו לאישה. ויתר יצחק להשם לנוכח אשתו כי יקרה היא, ויתר לו השם ותער רבקה אשתו. ויתרוצצו הבנים בקרבה ותאמר, אם כן למה זה אנוכי, ותלך לדרוש את השם. ויאמר השם לה, שני גויים בבטנך ושני לאומים ממעייך יפרדו, ולאום מלאום יאמץ, ורב יעבוד צעיר.
Beautiful. Shall we take verse in English?
And these are the offspring of Isaac, son of Abraham. Abraham begot Isaac. Isaac was 40 years old when he took Rebekah, daughter of Bethuel, the Aramean, from Padan Aram, sister of Laban, the Aramean, as a wife for himself.
So let's pause for a moment. First of the first verse, and these are the offspring of Isaac, son of Abraham. Abraham begot Isaac. Very, very strange pasuk, right? Very redundant, right? And the offspring of Isaac, the son of Abraham, so tell me about the offspring, right? We don't tell me about the offspring. Instead, what do you say? You say what I know already. If Isaac, the son of Abraham, then I know that Abraham begot Isaac. Okay? So very, very strange and redundant. So Rashi brings an explanation that it was Abraham, who gave birth to Isaac, as opposed to Yishmael was born to Avram, not Avraham. Right? So it was only once he had reached that height of Avraham, Yitzchak was born from Avraham. Yishmael was at a different level. But we're not telling about the offspring. Now we get a similar thing by Noach. Eila Toldot Noach, we began, these are the offspring of Noach. Noach ish tzaddik, tamim haya b'dorotav. So, Toldot might not necessarily mean a strict definition of offspring, right? Toldot can also mean the legacy. What was the legacy of Noach? Was his legacy his children? What was the legacy of Noach? If I say to you Noach, what do you think of? Tzaddik. The legacy of Noach was that he was a righteous person in his generations, and that is why when the flood came, it was only Noach and his family that was saved. Now, what's very fascinating about Yitzchak is we don't hear all that much about Yitzchak. We'll hear about him digging the wells that his father had dug, right? So, redigging the wells that Avram had dug that had gotten covered up indicates there is a certain connection to Avraham. Let me give an example for a moment. When you have a billionaire businessman who started his business and skyrocketed, what challenge do the sons of that businessman face?
They're in his shadow.
They're in his shadow, right?
They have to live up to him.
They have to live up to him, or try to live up to him, or try to match him, or try to outdo him, as opposed to recognizing, I'm probably not going to. How many people go from rags to riches like that? And if they would be able to just say, I am a continuation of that. Let me bring that forward. Then they will probably save themselves a lot of heartache in the process. Yitzchak's role was not to be this brash, new, recast, restructured, new Avraham. He was going to be continuing this thread, passing it on, making sure that the legacy of Avraham continued. Okay? So what was the legacy of Yitzchak? Avraham holid et Yitzchak. That was his legacy. His legacy was not I'm the father of so-and-so, not I am the creator or the doer of this. What is his legacy? I am the son of Avraham. Next pasuk sounded very, very roundabout of 20. Yitzchak was 40 years old when he married Rivka, the daughter of Betuel, the Aramean from Padan Aram, the sister of Lavan, the Amarian, as a wife for himself. We already know who her father was. We already know who her brother was. We read all about that when Eliezer went to find this wife for Yitzchak. So why are we emphasizing again who the father is? Right? Ha'arami. And who the brother is. Ha'arami. Now Arami means from Aram, but Arami also has another connotation. What is that? Ramai, who was a deceiving person. So why is the pasuk emphasizing this? So Rashi brings the medrash that even though Rivka had a father, Oivei, that she did, and had a brother, double Oivei, that she did, nevertheless, she was righteous. Great. But in addition to that, she also had a sense, an eye, to understand what was genuine and what was not genuine. When she was brought up in such a family, she had the ability to know what's real and what is not real. And she began, and she had problems having children, and they prayed to Hashem, and she became pregnant. Right? And then there's all of this. Let's continue over there. Cheryl, 22.
The children agitated within her, and she said, if so, why am I thus? And she went to inquire of Hashem.
Right, so things are strange. Right? There's a lot of strife, a lot of turmoil, a lot going on inside of her. This is not Braxton Hicks. This is something beyond the usual. And she went, Rashi says she went to the Beit Midrash of Shem and Aver to find out what is going on. And Hashem said to her through Shem and Aver, 23.
And Hashem said to her, 2 nations are in your womb, 2 regimes from your insides shall be separated. The might shall pass from one regime to the other. The elder shall serve the younger.
Okay. So she was given this vision, this prophecy, that it's 2 children, it's 2 nations that will be struggling one against the other, but the prophecy that she was given is the older shall serve the younger. Okay? The older shall serve the younger. Let's jump up a little bit. And we have the boys getting older. And Yaakov is making a nice stew. Esav comes in from the field. Right? Now, let's go to 29. Marty, you want to take that 29 and 30 for us? On page 126, 127.
Jacob simmered a stew, and Esau came in from the field, and he was exhausted. Esau said to Jacob, pour into me now some of the very red stuff, for I am exhausted. He therefore called his name Edom. Jacob said, sell as this day your birthright to me. And Esau said, look, I'm going to die, so of what use to me is a birthright?
Continue, 33.
Jacob said, swear to me this day. He swore to him, and sold his birthright to Jacob. Jacob gave Esau bread and lentil stew, and he ate and drank, got up and left thus. Esau spurned his birthright.
Okay. So right away we have what seems to be something that makes us feel a little bit uneasy over here. Esav is desperate. He's hungry, right? And he comes in, he wants some of the food, and Yaakov says, all right, but sell to me your birthright. Now, the Medrash paints a very vivid picture. The Medrash tells us, paints the picture, that this stew was a very special stew. It was a bean stew. It was a round food stew. When do we think of round food? When do we serve round food? Also from mourning, right? When a person is an Avel, what had happened? Avraham had died. Yitzchak, their father, was an Avel, was a mourner. Yaakov is making this bean stew, this lentil soup for his father. Esav, this is all the Medrash. Esav hears about the death of Avraham and says, is there no let din v'let dayan? Is there no judge? Is there no judgment? Even that great person died, right? So therefore he right away was rejecting the path, the teaching of Avraham. Give me some of that red stuff. Yaakov said, you don't want to, right? You're rejecting the path of Avraham. Right? Therefore, sell me the Bechorah. What good will it be? Well, the Bechorah, it's the service to God. It's all these requirements. If you step beyond the bounds, then a person is liable with a death penalty. So he answered, Hinei anochi holech lamut. I'm going to die. Why do I want the Bechorah? And he sells it to him. And fate, and the deal is closed. That's all the Medrash. Right? The simple psukim is that Esav came in, he was hungry, and Yaakov, it almost looks like, took advantage of him by having him sell the Bechorah. But even the simple reading is, now if I'm desperate, right, I'm so hungry, I'm so thirsty, right, and I'm willing to pay, because I'm so desperate, a ridiculous sum for whatever it is you're going to give me, the food you're going to give me. How do I feel afterwards? Terrible. I feel like I've been ripped off. I was taken advantage of. I was in a desperate situation, and you took advantage of me. Right? What does it say over here? Vayochal, he ate. Vayesht, he drank. Vayakam, got up. Vayelach, and he walked, he left. Vayivez Esav et ha-bechorah. Right? The English puts in thus. But Vayivez Esav means he spurned, he degraded. Vayivaz, baz, booze. He mocked, he degraded the Bechorah. Meaning, now he's not desperate. Now he's not hungry. Now he's not thirsty. Now he's not holech lamut. And what's his attitude? The Bechorah, right? What's it worth? Okay? Now, let's jump further. Page 134, page 135. And I want to present 3 or maybe 4 different approaches to how to view this. Oh, sorry. Chapter Perek Chav Zayin, 27.
Verse
1. Vayihi ki zaken Yitzchak. Someone take it for us, please. We can go. Yeah, we can go in English. Page 135, 27, 1.
And it came to pass when Isaac had become old and his eyes dimmed from seeing, that he summoned Esau, his older son, and said to him, My son. And he said to him, Here I am. And he said, See now, I have aged. I know not the day of my death. Now sharpen, if you please, your gear, your sword and your bow, and go out into the field and hunt game for me. Then make me delicacies, such as I love, and bring it to me, and I will eat, so that my soul may bless you before I die.
So Yitzchak wants to give a bracha. We'll have to soon see what bracha we're talking about. Wants to give a bracha to Esav. Now Rebekah was listening as Yitzchak spoke to Esav, his son. Esav went to the field to hunt, to game to bring. Rivka said to her son Yaakov, Behold, I heard your father speaking to your brother Esav, saying, Bring me some game, make me delicacies to eat, and I'll bless you in the presence of Hashem before my death. So now, my son, heed my voice to that which I command you. Go now to the flock and fetch me there 2 choice young kids of the goats, and I'll make of them delicacies for your father as he loves. Then bring it to your father, and he shall eat, so that he may bless you before his death. Okay? Now do so as I command you. Jacob replied to Rivka's mother, but my brother Esau is a hairy man, and I am a smooth-skinned man. Perhaps my father will fear me, and I shall be kimitateya. Important word, we'll come back to it a little later. I will be like a mocker in his eyes. And I'll bring upon myself klala v'lo bracha, a curse and not a blessing. But his mother has said, Alai kilalatcha bini. Your curse will be on me, my son. Listen to my voice and go do it. So he went and he brought it, okay, etc. So he went, fetched, and brought his mother. His mother made delicacies. Then she took all the son's clean garments and clothed Jacob, right, with a young son. With the skins of the kid goat, she covered his arms and his smooth-skinned neck. She placed the delicacies, the bread, right, and he came to his father, and then we know what happens, right? He gets the bracha, right? What is the blessing that he gives, right? And he's unsure, is this Esav or not, right? So then he, right, let's take a look on page 139, verse 28. May God give you of the dew of the heavens, the fatness of the earth, and abundant grain and wine. Peoples will serve you. Regimes will prostrate themselves to you. Be a lord to your kinsmen. Your mother's son will prostrate themselves to you. Cursed be those who curse you. Blessed are those who bless you. Esav comes in, right, and he lets out this great bitter cry. Bless me, father, too. Right? Okay. And we know what happens. Now, go to 143 for a minute. So Isaac summoned Jacob and blessed him. And he instructed him, don't take a wife from the Canaanite woman, go to Padan Aram, house of Bethuel, take a wife from there, from the daughters of Laban, your mother's brother, and may Kel Shekai bless you, make you fruitful, make you numerous, and may you be a congregation of peoples. May he grant you the blessing of Abraham to you and to your offspring with you, that you may possess the land of your sojourns, which God gave to Abraham. So now he's giving him his own bracha. Okay. So let's look at some different approaches. How do we view this deception? This deception of Rivka and of Yaakov to their father Yitzchak. So, probably I would say the classic approach is actually when Rivka said to Yaakov, right, Alai kilalatcha b'ni, your curse is upon me. If you want to take a look at that, very interesting. We actually have it over here in the Targum. So you look on page 136. (136) in the Hebrew. Yaakov said it's going to bring a curse. Verse 13 in the we're going to look at the Aramaic. We're going to look at the Targum Onkelos, page 136. So Yaakov said in verse 12, what happens if he feels me? I'll be like a mocker, and I'll bring a curse and not a blessing. Va'ameret le'imei. His mother said to him, Alai it amar b'nevuah. To me it was stated, everyone see where I'm reading in Hebrew? In the Targum? To me it was said prophetically, through prophecy, the lo yeton levataya alach bri, that a curse will not come upon you. Bram kabel mini, if you ever accept what I'm telling you, the izel savli, and go and bring it to me so I can prepare it. So the classic approach is that Rivka, who was the daughter of Lavan, the daughter of Betuel, the sister of Lavan, knew deception when she saw it, knew truth when she saw it. She had Esav's number. Yitzchak did not have Esav's number, did not understand the true nature of Esav. She had a prophecy that Yaakov should receive the blessings. V'rav yavod tza'ir, the older one will serve the younger one. She understood this as a prophecy that Yaakov needed to be the one who was on top. And therefore she said, we've got to make this prophecy happen. And she saw the true nature of Esav. And Esav took the wives that were a tremendous, right, on page 132, when Esav, verse 34, Perek, the last psukim of Perek Chavav 26, Esav was 40 years old. He took a wife, Yehudit bat Be'eri Achiti, Basma bat Elan Achiti. He took these Chiti wives for himself, and they were a source of morat ruach, a source of tremendous pain and bitterness to Yitzchak and to Rivka. Right? Esav is clearly not the one who is continuing in the path of Avraham. He's clearly not the one. And therefore she orchestrates this whole deception. Yaakov, right? I'm just presenting this approach. Yaakov, he had bought the Bechorah from Esav. He, in fact, was now the Bechor. Esav had willingly sold it to him, and Enoch will say he was under duress, but from his attitude afterwards, we see it was not under duress. It was only under duress, then you regret it afterwards. But Vayivez Esav the Bechorah, he degraded it, he mocked it, it was a joke. Right? He got himself the deal of a lifetime. Therefore, Yaakov, in fact, had replaced Esav as the Bechor, and that is how and why each of them did what they did, and they were justified in doing that which they did. And one can even argue and say, Avraham's greatest test, what was Avraham's greatest test? The Akedah, right? Because what was the midah of Avraham? What was the attribute of Avraham? Chesed. And therefore he needed to go against that to show, I'm not serving myself, I'm not serving who I am, I'm serving you, Hashem. The midah of Yaakov is emet, truth. See, his great challenge was being told by his mother, go against that which appears to be truth. I have this nevuah, this is what you must do, and he goes ahead and does it. That is what we would say the classic approach to all of these troubling events. Ruti.
What is like really weird to me, why wouldn't she share it with her husband? Why didn't she
Good.
Yitzchak and said from the beginning, I heard
Good.
this prophecy, and,
Good.
And explain to him about it.
I hear that, and that's, and I hear that, and I think that's a very Western society question, right? In other words, I agree, right? But I think the nature of marriage, even if you go back 200 years, forget about going back a few thousand years, the nature of the marriage and relationship was very different, right? And a woman did not necessarily feel that let me tell my husband the prophecy that I had that was shared with me and wasn't shared with him. And actually, we find that there was a certain distance that we find by Yitzchak and Rivka more than we find, right? The very first time that they met, right? So she lowered herself, right? He was davening, right? There is the Netziv writes how there was this sense of distance between them, right? Perhaps she should have, right? She didn't, right? I don't think it's that surprising that she didn't,
but
right?
But Hashem could, because he gave her only the nevuah, only her. And he, instead of understanding that the son he sees also the situation.
So we could explain that min hashamayim, heavenly orchestration, the bracha that he was wholeheartedly thinking was that he can give to Esav, that's what he needed to give to Yaakov. And min hashamayim, from the heavens, they didn't want it to be a half-hearted blessing. I can't give to the one who I really love, to Esav. I have to give to Yaakov. It won't be a half-hearted blessing. He wanted to give a full, heartfelt blessing as he would give it to Esav, and that's what should go to Yaakov. Right? Right? Now, there are also those that explain that he saw what he thought that Yaakov and Esav could be this partnership, right? In other words, he gives Esav the blessing of the fat, the dew, the land, and he gives Yaakov the spiritual blessing, which is the blessing of the land, the blessing of children. So he was hoping that they would be what we call a Yisachar Zavulun, this partnership that we have between two of the tribes, Yisachar, who were the Torah scholars and the teachers and the ones who knew all of the astronomy to determine the months and the years, and Zvulun were the merchant shippers, right? And Zvulun used to support Yisachar, and Zvulun is even mentioned first, so he viewed this as a partnership. Right? Some say that he saw Esav was a koach, Esav was a wild man. If you could harness that to Torah, to Judaism, wow, what a nation we would be. But Rivka saw through. These are all explanations going along with that, with I'd say the classic approach. Leah.
Another thing about Rivka, she went to Shem and Aver. I mean, Abraham was in her house. I mean, her grandfather, the grandfather of Yitzchak, her future babies. You would think she could go to him as a tzaddik. He's right in the house.
That's a very interesting question.
And she went to Shem and Aver because she wanted to get a non-biased opinion.
Interesting.
She wanted to get the truth. She didn't want him to tell her, you've got a schizophrenic in your womb. And then, she wanted to know what the truth was. And so when she went to the Midrash and they told her you're going to have twins and that whole prophecy of what they told her, she couldn't tell Yitzchak, by the way, I went to Shem, not your father.
Right, not to you, not to your father.
I got the prophecy from someone else.
Yeah.
So that's almost like in your face.
Where did she go to?
She went to
Lebeit
Shem.
Midrash shall shame the Ever.
Yeah, but she didn't have to say
Where she got the prophecy from?
Well, I mean, Yitzchak would say, you got a prophecy? Where did you get it from?
Yeah. How do you know?
How do you know?
How do you know?
That would be the next question.
Yeah. So she,
Rashi Kotef Sham.
so she, it wasn't like
Smash
she was
Rashi Kotef
hiding
Sham.
it from him.
Latech L'Dortzat Hashem.
She was hiding it from him
Rashi says,
not to hurt him.
Lebeit Midrasho shall shame the Ever. Me'ah Midrash. That's what she went. Yeah, I hear that.
I don't know. Why?
Shem was one of the sons of Noach,
Yeah.
right? Ever was a grandson of Shem, right? And they were, when we say that Yaakov, when he went, when he on the way to the house of Lavan, that he spent 14 years. He spent 14 years in the Beit Midrash of Shem and Ever. That was the spiritual learning center of the world.
How would they give her the nevuah?
They had right? Hashem told them,
It says-
Vayomer Allah Hashem, Rashi says, Al Yedei Shliach L'Shem Ne'ema B'Ruach HaKodesh V'hu Amar La. That's Rashi from the Midrash. Okay. So that, what I said, is the classic, I would say, approach. Rav Isaac Sher has a very, very interesting look on this. You know, we give boys on Friday night, we give them a bracha of Hashem should make you like, right? Like Ephraim and Menashe. Right? Why Ephraim and Menashe? Why not Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov? So different explanations are given. One explanation that's given is Ephraim and Menashe, there was reason for them to have some strife. Right? Who was older? Menashe was older than Ephraim. But the bracha is like Ephraim and Menashe, meaning even though Ephraim was pushed to the forefront, right, there was no discord between those two brothers. But let's go back a generation. Yaakov and Esav, right? Another generation, Yitzchak and Yishmael, also not so good. Now,
And Joshua. I mean, Yosef also not.
yeah, Yosef and his brothers also not so good. Yeah, right. So we'll stay. So we go with Ephraim and Menashe. So Rav Isaac Sher says as follows. Reuven, right? Let's take Yosef. Yosef was pushed to the front, right? Did Reuven, who was actually the firstborn, did Reuven sell his Bechorah?
No.
To Yosef? No. Did Yishmael sell his Bechorah to Yitzchak? No. Right? So why did Yosef become the Bechor and the leader? Why did Yitzchak become the leader? They didn't buy the Bechorah? By virtue of who they were. By virtue of their merits. Yosef was deserving of it. Right? Reuven, Yaakov says to him, Pachaz kamayim al totar. You acted in an impetuous manner. Right? You will not have this added qualities. We'll go to Yosef instead. Yitzchak was the one. Ki b'Yitzchak yikari l'chazera. Through Yitzchak your seed will be called, not Yishmael. There was no need for a sale. There's no need for a sale over here also. Yaakov and Esav, there's no need for a sale. Yaakov is an Ish Tam Yoshev Oalim. He's a pure person sitting there in the tents. Esav is an Ish Sadeh, Ish Yodei Tzayid, a man who knows how to hunt, an Ish Sadeh. Right? Very, very different. Very, very different people. Who clearly is going to be the continuity of Avram Yitzchak? Yaakov will be the continuity. So why was there this sale at all? See, he says Yaakov did this sale as an act of face-saving kindness for Esav. Right? It wasn't taken away from me. I sold it. Right? You know, there's a phenomenon by children who are adopted as foster kids, that they act out in such a way that they completely sabotage the chance of success. And an understanding, a psychological understanding is that these children have gone through so much and they feel rejected. The last thing they want to do is be rejected again. So if I'm going to be this wonderful, sweet child and I'm going to get rejected and sent to another house, I will not be able to handle that. So what do? They act in a way, obviously not, right, often, right? They'll act in a way that I did it. They didn't reject me, right? I controlled it. It's more painful when it's not in your control and it happens to you than, well, I did it. I caused it, right? And therefore, I was in control, and therefore I wasn't rejected. I made it impossible. I hated them. I made it impossible, right? If you brought it about, then it's easier for you to swallow it, for you to come to terms with that. So Yaakov engineered this whole scenario of the sale so that Esav sold it. And that's why Yaakov became the Bechor. He would have become the Bechor no matter what, by virtue of his merits, of who he was and what he deserved. But this was a chesed in the emet. The emet is that he's going to become the Bechor. How can he combine the midah of his grandfather with his own midah of emet? Let me do it in a way, right? Very often you're in a situation and someone's done something. And what do you want to do? You want to find them a dignified way to get out of the mess that they got themselves into, right? You have to find a dignified way for them to get out, for them to look good, right? Let them save their dignity. Let them do it in a dignified way. That's how Rav Isaac Sher understands all that's going on over here. It was going to Yaakov no matter what, by virtue of who he was, what he deserved, and now it was a matter of how can we do it in a way that it will preserve some dignity, some face for Esav. And it was through a sale. All right.
It doesn't sit right for me because it was instructions from mother.
I'm talking about the sale of the Bechor. I'm talking about the sale of the Bechorah initially. And then once that happened, so then it made sense to him to go ahead with all of this. Okay. Now, there are briefly two other approaches that I'd like to share with you. One approach is, Rabbi Sachs has an approach as follows. There are clearly different brachot that are being given to different children. Right? Well, come back to page 74 and 75. I'll tell you what that is in a second. David. Perek Yud Zayin. Psukim Ted Zayin, say 16. Right? Hashem says to Avram, your wife Sarai will be called Sarah. I will bless her. Give her you a son through her. I will bless her and she'll give a rise to nations. Kings of people will rise from her. Abraham threw her upon his face and laughed, said, shall a child be born to a 100-year-old man and Sarah, a 90-year-old woman, give birth? Avram said to God, oh, that Yishmael live before you. God said, nonetheless, your wife Sarah will bear you a son. She'll call his name Isaac. And I will fulfill my covenant with him as an everlasting covenant for his offspring after him. What is the covenant? What is the brit with Avram? Always two things. Land and children / nation. But regarding Yishmael, I've heard you. I have blessed him. Will make him fruitful. Will increase him most exceedingly. Beget 12 princes. Make him to a great nation. Now, let's hear those two brachot that were given about Yishmael and Yitzchak. Let's contrast that with the two brachot that we had at the end of this week's Parsha. The bracha that was given, meant for Esav, but given to Yaakov, what does that sound very much like? The bracha that was given to Yishmael. And the bracha which Yitzchak gives to Yaakov at the end. You think Yitzchak will be angry with Yaakov. How'd you do this to me? How'd you deceive me? What does he do? He goes ahead and gives him the blessing, page 143, Perek Chavchet. Right, verse 4. Right, verse 3. May Kelshak I bless you, make you fruitful, make you numerous, and may you be a congregation of peoples. May he grant you the blessing of Avram to you and to your offspring. With you. You may possess the land of your sojourns, which God gave to Abraham. So Isaac wants to say, Yitzchak's idea all along was to give Esav a Yishmael type of blessing, of the fat of the earth and the dews of the heaven, and to give Yaakov the blessing of the Avos, the blessing of the nation, of legacy, of the land of Israel, of becoming a nation. Rivka jumped. Yaakov jumped. And when they heard the blessing was going to Esav, they jumped, oh, that blessing should come to me. But that wasn't the blessing that was meant for them. That was actually the blessing that was meant for Esav. And Yaakov clearly struggles with this for the rest of his life. He goes to find a wife. And what happens? He's deceived. He worked for Rachel, and who's given to him? Leah. Right? And what does Lavan say to him? Lavan says, here, take a look at page 152. Right? Such a jab in his face. Perek Chavtes 29:26. When he says to him, why have you deceived me? Lavan says, Lo yasechem bimkomenu. That's not what we do in our place. Latei tatzira lifnei habichira. We don't put the younger one before the older one. That's not what we do over here. I don't know where you were brought up. I don't know what happens in your town. But here the younger one doesn't go before the older one. What is Lavan doing?
In your face.
In your face. A major slap in the face to Yaakov. So Yaakov's deceived and is put into his face. The Medrash over there says that he said to Leah, when I called Rachel, why did you answer? And the Medrash says that Leah answered, I learned from the best. When your father called Esav, why did you answer? So this deception came back to haunt Yaakov. Over here. And then with Yosef, what happens? He's deceived with the death of Yosef. When he finally comes before Paro towards the end of his life, Paro says to him, wow, how old are you? Right? Meaning you look a lot older. And Yaakov says, I'm not that old, but I've had a difficult, harsh life. Few and difficult were the days of my life. So Rabbi Sachs understands, and also he says that when he met up in next week's Parsha, when he meets up with, a few Parsha ahead, when he meets up with Esav, he says to him, Kach et birchati, right? Which simply means take my gift, my bracha. But what does Kach et birchati also mean? Take my blessing. It's yours. Have it back. Right? So Rabbi Sachs proposes that it was good intentions, but it was a mistake on their part. Yes, Leah.
But then there's the story where he fights with Esav's angel, and he says, bless me. And he's basically saying, tell me that it was right that I took the blessing.
Well, according to the Medrash, yes. Yeah. right?
And then
Or
he does- he
affirm
does
the
get
blessings.
blessed,
Yes,
And then that's why his
Yes.
name changes.
yes, yes. And that will certainly, right, according to the classic approaches, 100%.
So he didn't steal the blessing, it was meant for him.
Yeah, there's also Medrash back in this week's Parsha, right? When that Yitzchak says to Esav, "Gam baruch yihiyeh," right? And the one that I gave the blessing to, he shall be blessed. Meaning, even when he realized that he gave it to Yaakov, he affirmed the blessing. Yeah. One last approach I wanted to share with you, a very, very interesting approach. And this is something that David Foreman presents. And what's interesting is, so we always read the Chumash, right? Like the spoiler alert, right? We already know what's going to happen. So we pack a lot of our knowledge of what's going to happen into the earlier points. But let's just read. His understanding is that Yaakov sort of went rogue. Yaakov went beyond what Rivka wanted him to do. Right? And let me ask you a question. Here's Yaakov, and here's Esav. If your children, one of you, right, you have your eyes closed, and one of your children walk into the room impersonating the other, what are the chances of you falling for that? Right? Really, really.